One of the oldest questions of both philosophy and logic is, what is a law of logic? A few months ago, I discovered the answer to that question, and I proved it to be correct. I state that theorem in its exact form, as well as the proof for it, in my audiobook, What is a Law of Logic? A Dialogue, professionally narrated by Samuel Unger and available at audible.com. Please enjoy the following promotional excerpt from the audiobook itself, available at audible.com.
And modus ponens can be taken to say that if K is any chosen specification of the consequence relation, then K of P is true whenever P is true. Exactly. But if L is some specific logic, then there is an L-specific version of the modus ponens. Exactly. If zeta is the recursion that generates some specific statement set L, then the L-specific version of modus ponens says that zeta of S is true whenever S is true. And the same thing, mutatis mutandis, is true of the law of transitivity. You are right, but I would like you to state your reasoning as explicitly as possible. According to the principle of transitivity, if P entails Q and Q entails R, then P entails R. This principle has a general meaning, one that is true of all systems of logic and isn't specific to any one system of logic. And what exactly is the logic non-specific interpretation of the principle of transitivity? That, given any truth-preservative recursion phi of P is true when P is true. Exactly. At the same time, if L is some specific system of logic, and Psi is the recursion that generates L, the L-specific version of transitivity is that Psi of P is true if P is true. Exactly. The L-specific version of transitivity doesn't talk about all truth-preservative recursions. It only concerns Psi. And everything we have just said about modus ponens and transitivity is also true of modus tollens, as being the principle that if P entails Q and Q is false, then P is false. That's right. But I don't see how to extend this line of reasoning to other laws of logic, such as double negation, excluded middle, and non-contradiction. Actually, the justifications, and therefore the very meanings of those statements, are to be understood in terms of the very points you've been making, and there is no other way to understand them. Please explain. Consider the so-called law of excluded middle. Either P or not P. Right. Suppose you deny it. What follows? That P may be neither true nor false.